Happy Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms across both North and South Dakota today. The main risk here is going to be a tornado and a hail risk. So we are watching for large hail as well as several tornadoes in this area. It's a low risk, however, it's more impressive than what we saw yesterday. So I do think that we'll see at least 1 or 2 tornadoes today. Now let's take you to the tropics. Out in the Atlantic, man, it has definitely woken up, right? Now Dexter is a fish storm, but it's still a tropical storm, and it's curving, it's paving a way for storms behind it, kind of creating a conveyor belt for storms behind it. And we'll talk more about what that means in just a few minutes. But let's get to your current storm reports. So over the last 24 hours, we really did nail this forecast yesterday. We told you that hail was going to hug the Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska state lines, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday. Pretty isolated for the most part, so I think level 1 to level 2 was a perfect call yesterday from our team of meteorologists. And then we saw some decent hail in some places, but for the most part that hail was right around quarter size to slightly larger. Now taking a look at what to expect over the next few days. Today that severe risk heads up to the Dakotas. So we're talking about North and South Dakota for both a hail and a tornado threat today. Tomorrow we stay in the northern plains, heading to the south just a little bit. Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, all included in the risk tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we head out to the west, back into the northern Rockies, into places like Montana, and then back to the Dakotas. Alrighty, so that's a very big overview of what to expect over the next 72 hours. Let's get into the right now. What are we seeing right now? Well, we've got a low pressure system sitting across the Great Plains. We've also got a little boundary, a stationary boundary that's bringing lots of rain down on the East Coast. So I want to go to the East Coast first. It's pretty quiet up in the Northeast. Down to the south, that's where we see all of that rain, creating a flash flood problem that we'll talk about a little bit more later on in the forecast. Heading up to the north now, we started out with rain across North Dakota early this morning. However, now we're still seeing those showers and storms. I think that this is not the show. Later on this afternoon and evening, we'll see more storms develop in these areas. And with the abundant moisture that we have in these areas, I think that we absolutely could see some sort of like warm front setup. We're talking about some warmer temperatures today in these areas. You can kind of actually see that from our temperature map. Do you see that area where we're watching for some of these oranges and reds to creep in? I think that will help for storm initiation later on this afternoon and evening. Speaking of temperatures, your current temperatures are sitting in the 70s and 80s. We've got a little high pressure system building, and that's going to bring back in the heat over the next few days. The middle of August, it looks pretty hot. So let's break it down. Let's talk about your storm hazards today, starting with that hail forecast and then moving to the wind and tornado forecast. Your hail forecast here looks pretty impressive all the way through the northern plains. Now, I'm not too terribly impressed down in places like Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. I think that you're going to be pretty dry in these places today. So even if you have a decent hail risk, you need storms, right? Well, let's head up to the north where we know we're going to get storms today. We're talking about North and South Dakota. Let's actually zoom into these areas. So North and South Dakota, we're talking about mainly in the central and portions of the eastern side, and portions of the western side of the state here. That's where we see those deeper hues of oranges and reds, and that's where we'll see the larger hailstones. How large are we talking here? I think that we could get up to tennis ball, maybe baseball size hail, but it's going to be very isolated. So your most likely hail sizes, it's going to be a little bit smaller. We're talking about up to golf ball size hail in these areas, mainly in between Bismarck, Aberdeen, and Norfolk. So right in the center of the states, that's where you're going to see storm initiation. Rapid City may miss out on this. If we get any storms on this side of the state, it's going to be very, very isolated, but more widespread storms as we head a little bit farther to the east. This will turn into a wind event through the overnight hours and then dissipate by early tomorrow morning. There's your risk level. We're talking about a level 2, a moderate risk for Bismarck, Aberdeen, and Norfolk. How large for your maximum hail size? We kind of already talked about this. We're talking about up to tennis ball size hail. Again, this will be extremely isolated in these areas. I think that the potential is there, but again, it has to be the perfect storm to get that larger hailstone. Most of these hailstones will be a bit smaller. We're talking golf ball, ping pong ball size hail. But hey, that's still a pretty impressive hailstone. What about that tornado risk? Okay, so for your tornado risk here, Bismarck to Aberdeen, a level 2 tornado risk. So we've got several tornadoes that are possible in this area highlighted here in yellow. A marginal or a level 1 risk highlighted there in green. And so we're talking about the southern side of North Dakota and the central to northern side of South Dakota there. Say that 5 times fast. The southern side of North Dakota, northern side of South Dakota. I hope everyone is at home saying it with me. Other than that, we're watching for a high wind risk today. We're talking about 65, maybe 75 mile per hour wind speeds, mainly on the eastern side of the states here. What we're watching for is a few isolated storms to go up later on this afternoon, but then congeal into a line of storms as these head to the east, making for more widespread rainfall in this area, but also a better chance for higher wind speeds. Alrighty, moving on, let's talk timeline here. So your timeline, we'll start with the entire U.S., and then we'll zoom down to these very specific areas. What we're watching for here are storms to initiate later on this afternoon in North and South Dakota. Ongoing rain down in the southeast. So what we're watching for in this area is going to be a flood risk, that hail, wind, tornado threat, very, very low chance down in the southeast. All of that stays up to the north and southern portion, to the northern portion of the plains. So let's zoom down. Let's exactly see hour by hour what we're watching for here. 1, 2, 3 o'clock, we stay mostly dry. After 3 o'clock, that's whenever we start to see our first few initial storms go up. Supercells are definitely possible today as we have that tornado risk on the board. What we're watching for here are a few isolated cells to get organized, and that's where we could see that tornado risk. I think this model is handling things pretty well today. I mean, it's lining up exactly where the Storm Prediction Center had outlined that tornado risk. Again, this will continue through the evening hours tonight. So we're talking 5, 6, 7 o'clock this evening. Finally, after that, as we head into sundown, that's whenever we start to see these storms congeal into a line, creating more of a wind risk. So the tornado, the hail risk goes down right around sundown, and that's whenever we could see a wind risk on the eastern side of North and South Dakota here. Storms will move into places like Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, and that brings us to your storm risk tomorrow. But before we get to Wednesday, I want to bring you back down to the south and east. I want to talk about that flood risk real quick. We will see scattered widespread showers and storms today, creating a flash flood risk in this area. It's a very tropical setup right here where it's just day after day after day of rain in this area. Alrighty, let's move on to, I think we are going to your flood risk. Okay, there we go. There you go. It's a level 2 risk down in the southeast. Level 2 flood risk here. What does that mean? It means that that spot in your neighborhood that always seems to flood, yeah, that's the spot that you want to watch out for today. Underpasses, on-ramps, you also want to watch out for those areas as well. If you turn right on an intersection, those are also areas that you could get some road spray as well. Alrighty, taking a look at your overview for storm risks. We talked about this earlier. Northern plains for today, bringing you down just a little to the south tomorrow. Minnesota, South Dakota, and Nebraska all included in the storm risk for tomorrow, and then a little further to the west on Wednesday. But for the most part, we really are staying in the northern plains, which is very, very typical for this time of the year. Again, tomorrow, where's your storms? We're going to start out with some showers and storms in the morning in between Iowa and Minnesota. It could be a rainy commute for some. Your afternoon's going to dry off, and then you'll see another round of storms from this lingering boundary as we head into the afternoon and evening. Alrighty, let's take you down to the Pacific. I'm not quite sure what my data is doing right here, but we're going to talk tropics now. So if you're wondering what's happening in the Atlantic, we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. What you can't see is that this is the Pacific Ocean. This is a mess. I'm not quite sure what's happening with my data here. Tropical Storm Henrietta, way out in the middle of the ocean, basically a fish storm. It's still a tropical storm. We've got another really good risk for another cyclone to form within the next 2 to 5 days. A 90% chance to see our next named storm in the Pacific. Okay, we'll move on because the data does not look great in this area. I'm not quite sure what happened with our satellite data. It looks great in the Atlantic. All right, let's talk about the Atlantic. Here you go. Tropical Storm Dexter is still spinning out in the middle of the Atlantic, the northern side of the Atlantic. It's a fish storm right now, right? It's most likely not going to make any impact to the U.S. Let me rephrase that. It's not going to impact the U.S. I have been seeing Tropical Storm Dexter, Hurricane Dexter, trending over the past few days. It's not a hurricane, and again, it's not going to make landfall in the U.S. So what should we be watching for? There's two other areas of concern here. One of those areas right along the East Coast. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Another area just off the coast of Africa. What we're watching for right now is a tropical wave. Nothing to be concerned of right now. However, over the next few days, we're talking about the next 7 days here, we're going to have a better view of this storm as it continues to ride this conveyor belt all the way up closer to the states. So it's got a pretty decent trajectory closer to the U.S. What it does is it gets closer to the states. That's very unsure right now. We just don't have the technology to forecast that far out. So if you see these long-term models that say hurricane for Florida or hurricane for Louisiana, we cannot tell you that right now. No one knows what's going to happen. Every 6 hours, we get a brand new model run, and every 6 hours, that 9-day, 10-day forecast changes completely. Now, what we can tell you is over the next 5 days, we do have a 40% chance for something to form out in the Atlantic, the southeastern side of the U.S. So 40% chance for something to form off the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, or North Carolina. What we're watching for right now is we're watching for an area of, I'm going to actually fast forward through these graphics because I want to show, okay, perfect, right here. What we're watching for right now is we've got an area of low shear. So these storms want to take the path of least resistance. Blue, very resistant. Not great tropical cyclone formation where you see the blue. Really, really good tropical cyclone formation where you see the reds and the purples. Now, Dexter has created a pretty decent path in the Atlantic for these storms to go. And then we've also got a pretty decent area in places like the Gulf and just outside of Florida for a tropical storm to form. Again, we've got a few days until this happens. We're talking about 3 to 5 days here, so we've got a few days. In the meantime, what will our next named storm be? We just got Dexter, so our next named storm is going to be Aaron. And I like this. Look at the text right below me. Answer in the comments, where do you think the next named storm will be? Where will it make landfall? Where will the next named storm make landfall? I'll go back to our graphic here so that you can see 50% chance for tropical cyclone formation out in the middle of the Atlantic. And then we've got a 40% chance for tropical cyclone formation just off the southeast coast. So where do you guys think it's going to be? Alrighty, moving on. We're never going to get through the tropics. Let's keep moving on. We are, just a reminder, at the very beginning of our tropical season. Oftentimes, this is the time of the year where things really start to ramp up. So there's your tropical storms and hurricanes. So this is the number of tropical storms and hurricanes every single year. There's your hurricanes, highlighted there in dark red. And then there's your major hurricanes, highlighted there in even darker red. Where are we at? We're on the up. So we are just expecting, according to climatology, to just get more active as we head into the middle of September. And then we start to see things slow down a little bit. So for everyone said, oh, it's a low, it's a bust, it's going to be a quiet season. It typically is this time of the year. June, July, it's typically very, very quiet. This is the time of the year that we start to see things wake up, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So we'll see what happens over the next few days. Let's take a look at your Atlantic temperatures. We're in the 80s right now. Warmer temperatures, the farther south that you go, we've got some pretty decent warm temperatures off the coast and in the Gulf as well. There you go. There's your tropical forecast. Any questions about that? We're all good? John says we're all good over here. Alrighty, let's go to your temperatures. All right, cooler temperatures where we've got all of that rain across the East Coast. We've got warmer temperatures where we've got a high pressure system setting up. out just to the west of Oklahoma, Texas, and right along the Four Corners. I've got some bad news for anyone who doesn't like the heat. It's coming back. It's building back in. I don't think it's going to come back with a vengeance. I think it's going to be pretty typical for this time of the year. 90s, maybe some triple digits sneaking in as we head into the end of the work week. And this weekend, holy moly, Wednesday, 97 here in Oklahoma City, 98 in Albuquerque. Thursday, what are we talking about here? Triple digits in Oklahoma City, triple digits in Albuquerque. We've got the 90s building into places like Memphis and Shreveport. It's going to be very, very hot in the central to southern portion of the U.S. And how long are we talking about this heat sticking around? Unfortunately, all the way through the middle of August. August 10th through the 14th, it looks like temperatures have a pretty good chance to be above average or warmer than normal. So if your normal temperature in Oklahoma City is 95, I'm just making that up, I'm not quite sure exactly what the normal temperature this time of the year is, then we have a really good chance to be above 95. Our overnights are going to get warm, your daytime highs also warmer than average. Unfortunately, what concerns me about this is that we also have a really good chance for drier conditions out on the West Coast. And this has been a very common model, a very common trend for several different models. What we have seen, or what we are going to see, is that fire danger increase. You get the heat, you get the dry weather, you're going to see the fire danger increase out on the West Coast. So that is not something that we ever like to see. That is something that we are unfortunately likely to see as we head into the middle of August. And there you go. There's your forecast today. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you jumping on here. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we'll be tracking those storms across the Dakotas into the afternoon. And of course, we'll have our eye on the Atlantic. We'll be tracking those tropical disturbances as they slowly come into view over the next few days. Not right now. We're talking about 3 to 5 days, and we'll get some more information on that. All right, thanks for joining us today. Follow us in the meantime on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map, give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here, same time, same